Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, Fearless Freedom family. It is Dr. G, and today we have a solo episode, so hope you guys don't mind. We changed up just a little bit. Well, I'll tell you the truth about what happened. What happened is this week I had planned to have a guest on the show, but it did not quite work out that way. So I said, you know what? It's been a while since I've done a reflection episode. I've talked to you guys about my status so far with progressing through facing my fear. And so you know what? It's time to give you guys an update. All right. So if you've ever listened to the podcast before, and perhaps you may have listened to the very first episode, if you haven't, I definitely encourage you to do so. But I'll give you a quick recap. So the reason why I started this podcast to begin with was for a selfish reason. And I'm just being completely open and honest about that. The other thing is I'm going to be pretty real with you and let you know that I am recording this podcast in the minivan in front of the dojo where my children are practicing their karate, because these were the moments that I had free this week where it was relatively quiet, barring the occasional car door closure or cars driving by that you might hear in the background. So keeping it real. So now that we've gotten that out the way, all right. So the reason why I started the podcast. So I said before that I started it for a selfish reason. I started a podcast because I have a fear of public speaking. And that fear manifested itself in some interesting ways. So I didn't realize how bad it was until I just took a step back once and I was getting ready to give a speech to the resident doctors through my job. And the night before the speech, I was literally sleepless. I couldn't sleep. No matter what I did, all my usual rituals for bedtime were just ineffective. I tried to lay down. All I could think about was the content. I'm like, okay, I can't forget to say this in the slide, or I wonder how that's going to come across, or I hope I don't mess this up. These were the things that were on my mind, in my thoughts, and were the things that prevented me from getting good restful sleep, which, as you know, is needed when you're going to perform. And particularly when you like to perform at a high level, being rested is paramount. So there you have it. So night before, no sleep. So right before getting on stage, this is kind of what happens in my mind. That audio is really very annoying because it is along the lines of, Charmaine, you don't know this content. This is not something that you have internalized. Charmaine, you're going to mess up. You're going to forget what you're going to say. You're going to have the slides go out and then you're going to be in deep trouble. Charmaine, you're going to trip and fall flat on your face, break your nose, have a busted lip, and be a bloody mess in front of this audience. Charmaine, you are going to have a big piece of spinach stuck in your teeth that the audience is going to be hyper-focused on, and they're not going to hear a thing you have to say. Wow. All of that. Then, that wasn't it, though. That was just what was happening in my mind. What was happening to my body was a whole other narrative. My heart was beating rapidly. I can feel the pounding beats on my chest wall as if my heart was fighting desperately to evacuate itself from the chest. Then my palms were so sweaty, I swear I could have accumulated enough sweat just from my sweaty palms to fill a cup. The physical symptoms were impressive. And I just wondered, well, why? do I need a beta blocker? Do I need some Ativan before I get on stage? Like, this is crazy. Is this what is experienced by others who give speeches and talk to audiences on a regular basis? Then I decided that this wasn't normal, that I needed to figure out a way to face this fear boldly and make a difference. Turn this from a weakness, because that's how I viewed it, a weakness, into a strength. So how do you do that? How do you turn a weakness? How do you turn a fear that you have into something that you no longer fear, and also into something that is now a strength of yours? Well, there are a couple of steps. The first step is acknowledging that you have the fear. So I did. I acknowledged that. The next thing that I thought about was, well, who do I know, or what do people who are really good at speaking in public do? What are their practices? What are the clues for success that they leave behind? Because we all know that success leaves clues. So I just started observing people. I started using YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is a pretty incredible source of information, as you know. And I just started watching people's speeches. I started watching Brene Brown. I started watching Gary Vaynerchuk. I started watching Mel. Like, all these people, Les Brown, who were just dynamic speakers. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that Brene Brown was experiencing some of the very same things that I experienced as an amateur before my speeches. So that was just very encouraging. I thought I'd share that with you. I mean, it is just another acknowledgement that we are human and we all have similar emotions and feelings. And it is what we do with those that make all the difference. So Brene, instead of letting that cripple her, transformed it into her superpower, which is igniting an audience, encouraging the masses, and engaging them to be better than they were before they encountered her. So there you have it. So those were the physical things and the mental things that I experienced prior to going on stage. And so then I decided, okay, how can I start facing this fear? So I acknowledged it. I said I need to take a massive action. So the first thing that I did was I started to do live streams. So I started to do live streams on Facebook, and I did them very frequently. I was aware that, and you might hear the car door opening as my daughter gets into the vehicle. I was aware that anything could go wrong with that. You know, it was complete extemporaneous speech, extemporaneous encounter, experience, the whole deal. And so I basically started doing that more and more in an attempt to become comfortable speaking to an audience. And I would close my eyes and I would imagine that there were so many people viewing the live in real time and I was speaking to them. And so that was the first step. So I did that for a while. And then I thought, there needs to be a ramp up in this facing of the fear of public speaking. So then I started telling people that I was afraid to speak in public, but that I also wanted to be a public speaker. I wanted to get in front of audiences and I wanted to experience the gift that offers, which is a symbiotic relationship between the deliverer, which is the person on the stage, presenting their content and sharing their nuggets with the audience, and then the receiver, which is the audience, giving back to that person on stage, and both leaving with a gift. The audience leaving with the gift of that valuable content and hopefully calls to action, and then the presenter leaving with the gift of having received a positive experience from that audience in order to be better for the next presentation. So I said, you know what? I want to do this. And so I told anyone who would listen that I was afraid of public speaking. And I told anyone who would listen that I wanted to get in front of more audiences. What happened there? Oh boy. Guys, let me tell you. When you put something out in the universe and you just let it go, amazing things happen. When you say to yourself, this is what I'm going to do, and you have manifested it already for yourself in your mind, a powerful thing happens. That will come to pass, whatever that thing is. So I put that out there last year, and it turns out that the universe answered with a loud yes. And what has happened this year has been nothing short of a miracle. And I feel incredibly blessed to be on this journey and to be a part of this movement. And the movement that I'm referring to is basically the Fearless Freedom Movement. And so I say a movement because it's the Fearless Freedom Movement. So that brings us to this year. So this year started out in amazing ways, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to get in front of more audiences as I ask the universe for. And so every single month, except for January, has been an opportunity to get in front of an audience and experience that symbiotic relationship that occurs when a talk is presented. The second piece of this, facing fear, is the establishment of this particular podcast that you're currently listening to. And basically, the podcast was started to face my fear of public speaking, to talk with others who may be facing a fear of some sort and have solutions as to how to overcome their fear or fears. And so the podcast journey has been amazing because it has really taught me so many valuable lessons in how to address this problem and how to face it in a constructive way such that there is a victorious outcome. So guests on the podcast, as you have been listening to, if you've been listening to several of the previous episodes, have ranged from people in medicine, in other industries, in business, in nursing, just so many different walks of life. And we all have something in common, and that is we have fears that we have to overcome and that we have faced. So I say all this to say that the progress over the last 7 months has been tremendous. I want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you for listening, for sharing, for downloading, for subscribing, for everything that you have done to make the Fearless Freedom Movement an amazing movement, and for making this podcast a success. Because the truth is that I did start this podcast for selfish reasons, which was to face my own fear of public speaking. But what I have grown to learn is that this is just a medium for you to start looking at what it is that you fear and start thinking of ways in which, and you can take nuggets from myself or from previous guests, to face that fear and to emerge victoriously. So thank you again for listening, because of you, the podcast has hit the 3,000 download mark, which is a tremendous success. And I hope that the even bigger success is the impact that the content is having on your daily life. So thanks again, y'all. It's been awesome. And again, coming to you raw from the car with all the background noises and all the interruptions, the Fearless Freedom with Dr. G podcast. And this is Dr. G signing out. Thank you for joining us today on this journey. Fear is all around us. It strives to stop us from achieving our greatness. We have the tools to be overcomers. By sharing our stories, supporting each other, and doing self-reflection, we can do this. If you found value in this conversation today, please be sure to subscribe to and share this podcast with your friends. By going to your favorite podcast platform, leaving a review and a 5-star rating, you will help to get the word out about it. And that is much appreciated. Thanks again for spending time with us. I appreciate your time and your attention. It is my hope that you will punch fear in the face today and that you will be strong, Be brave and unleash your greatness.